Hey, good afternoon. What's going on, Cashflow hackers? It's Chris with Life 180. I'm here with Matt, and today I think today is going to be one of the more fun conversations that we've had about this stuff. I think I probably say that every video, but I really love this stuff. Today is actually it's one of my favorite talks that I talk about because I think it's one of the greatest problems that we have. And if you watch this channel and you see the coaching that I do for agents, you know that I kind of lead from the perspective of that as life insurance agents, we have to stop being life insurance agents, right? And we have to be entrepreneurs. We have to start thinking like entrepreneurs because entrepreneurs do one thing, and that one thing is they solve problems. That's the one thing all entrepreneurs have in common. And I think the biggest problem when it comes to people and their money, people and their personal finances, is that they're not being intentional about their money. They're not being intentional about what they're doing. They're not being intentional about the life that they want to live. They're being reactive with their money. And when we're reactive, it's impossible to live a plan, right? Like I remember I once heard this guy talk from stage. I can't remember what his name was at this point in time, but I remember the first time I heard it, it was probably like 15 years ago. And he's like, if you're not living a plan, your life's plan on your design, I promise you're living somebody else's plan, you know? And it's so true, right? And unfortunately, I feel like people when they're doing that and they're not being intentional about what their money is doing for them and what the use of their money is to help be intentional about their goals and objectives in their life. Money, we have to realize money is just a tool for us to accomplish what we want in our life, you know, from what we want our quality of life to be like, what we want the impact in this world to be, our legacy to be, these kinds of things. And so that's why I continually use the phrase, the reason people struggle with their money is because their money is not in alignment with their values and beliefs. And so we're going to get into this. And I think there's a lot of little nuanced areas that we'll talk about that I'm very passionate about. And I'll write things on the board, and we got all this stuff going on. And I'd love to hear people who are watching this. I want to hear your feedback, actually, like as we get into this, and I'll ask this a couple times as we go through here, but do me a favor. When I say the phrase, you have to align your money with your values and beliefs, and the reason people struggle with money is because their money is not in alignment with their values and beliefs. Give me a 1 in the comments if you feel like right now you are 100% in alignment with your money and your values and beliefs. Your money is being used as a tool that's completely in alignment with your values and beliefs and to accomplish the goals and objectives that you have for your life. Give me a 1. And if not, give me a 2. It's going to take a little honesty and openness and vulnerability to be able to do it. But if you can do it, go ahead and we'll get started. So Matt, getting into this, you're kind of like a stoic, right? So this is something that kind of falls into your purview of expertise, and you've put a lot of thought into this stuff as well. So what are your and this is probably because I think about this so much, is probably what attracted you to want to work with me and us to do this partnership and do what we're doing together. So talk to me about your thoughts around just this concept of values and beliefs and money and lifestyle and goals and like legacy and just all the things that we do all the time.
I think you're the first person, like I've been in the industry for over a decade. You're the first person that has a specific strategy and a focus around it. It's something that's like common sense, right? But you actually put it together in a package. Like it makes sense. Being in this industry for 10 years, I sat with tons of families, helped a lot of people, and we're trying to solve problems, but it's really focused on like the product and the problems that we try to uncover are like so surface level. And with your strategy and how you help people, helping people align their money with their values and beliefs, that is so in depth. Like there's so much to it, right? And it's cool because like when you come from that aspect of helping people, not only do you actually help people, but that's why I always laugh. You don't get these, oh, let me think about it, and all these objections that people prepare for. You don't get really those stuff, right? And I think like a lot of time in sales, we're starting here, right, to solve a problem, but it actually starts like way before that. In understanding people's values and beliefs, like way before the sales process begins for a lot of agents. And I just love our approach because when you find out people's true values and beliefs, one, they just like, it's like an epiphany. First, they didn't realize it. They didn't really think about it. Right. And then when they come to the idea of like, oh my gosh, I'm not actually taking the actions that are congruent with my values and beliefs, they have this epiphany. So you don't have to sell them. Like, you're kind of guiding them to self-realization of like, look, this is what you believe and why you believe it. And obviously it's important to you, but why the heck are you doing this? Right. And so it's a really cool process, because it's like a self-discovery where we're just kind of pointing things out, and they're like, oh my gosh, Chris, oh my gosh, Matt, like, what the heck am I doing? How can I get in alignment with my values and beliefs? And it just becomes so fun. But big picture, Chris, before I met you, if I were to go back and think about all the people I sat down with over the years, that is the big problem. They're just not in alignment with their values and beliefs. And it's just really, really awesome that we can have that approach.
Agreed. And I think the key there is like one of the things, and the reason I've done this. And good morning from Alaska. What's up? What's happening? It is morning there. That's early in Alaska. I'm East Coast time. Matt's Pacific time. It's early in Alaska. Morning. So I think the reason that I've done I've come up with this whole values and beliefs and the building a framework, right? Because I think that's the hardest part for me. It's like, I've been doing this forever. And one of the things I've really appreciated with you is like, you're really good at helping me kind of slow down and create frameworks for all this stuff, right? Because frameworks are important. I have to be reminded of this constantly. But the reason that I feel like this is so important that we've taken the time to do this is because of the fact that most people, when we look at personal finance and you look at the coaching, it doesn't matter. You go to whatever page out there, whatever coach, the Dave Ramsey's, the Susie Ormans, the IUL agents, even the whole life people a lot of time, right? Like what happens is a lot of people are like, you know what, this is the way that you need to do things to be successful. And I don't believe there's any one way to be successful in anything. I don't think cutting Starbucks out of your world. I don't think cutting, going out to dinner all the time is the answer. I don't think that there are any answers. Like from a budgeting perspective, I don't think there are good or bad answers as to what's right and what's wrong. I think there are going to be certain principles. If we really get intentional about starting with the end in mind and getting clear about what we want to accomplish in our life, and there's an X's and O's and a dollars and cents component to that. So we have to be able to, hey, what's going on, David? Excited to have you here, man. It's super cool, guys. And if you're seeing this comment from David, we are launching Life 180 Latino for the Latino market. It's going to be just absolutely amazing. I think it's going to be a game changer in the industry because unfortunately the Latino market is flooded with IUL garbage and doesn't have enough real financial education. So we're going to go there. But getting back to what I was saying, there's not one right way to do anything. But the challenge is, if that's the case, right, this is what I've always struggled with, is if there's not one right way to do anything, how do you create a framework to put people in? Because usually frameworks are built around, let me get you into my thing, right? Yeah. Like, let me sell you the value on my thing. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. And so I think what's challenging, and when I always say to agents, like, I don't want to teach people how to learn a sales presentation to sell whole life insurance. I can't stand these companies that teach people sales presentations just to sell IUL, and they pitch it as financial education. Yeah. To me, there's financial education you have to learn. You got to learn the economy. You got to learn, certain basic financial principles. There's no negotiating that. And like, you got to really get clear about what do you believe, because I believe that the game of money is more psychological than it is, fundamentally like technical, right? It's more psychological. It's not X's and O's spreadsheets. It's more right here, and how we behave, right? Because at the end of the day, we behave around what we believe, right? Like here's the deal. If Matt says that he wants to buy a house and he knows he needs $100,000 down for the house and he's starting from scratch and he's got no money and he knows he needs to save this money and he cannot get this house until he's got $100,000, and he's got the disposable income, right? And let's just say I'm building a hypothetical situation. He's got the disposable income, but at the end of the day, every single month that he's got the disposable income to save for this house, he chooses to take a vacation, and he chooses to go out to dinner and spend $2,000 a month going out to eat and do all this stuff. You can't tell me that his values and beliefs and what he truly wants, like his why, is getting this house when he's actually prioritizing these other things, right? Well, you could tell me that, but what that means is he's not being intentional and he doesn't understand certain things. So there needs to be education around the X's and O's of how money works and like what you actually need to do to reach your objectives, and understand like clear time frames and the ins and outs of it. But what I've like really discovered for me personally, as I've gone through my own journey over the past 15 years, is that I've done a lot of things that people would say were financially stupid, right?
Yeah.
Like I got a lot of criticism. What's that?
Everybody has that.
Well, but listen to this. So like, for instance, I've done things like where I was like broke when I went through the transition of leaving the IUL company, when I was going through a lawsuit that was costing me $250,000, when I went through all that process, when I didn't have any cash flow, when I was like really stressed out financially, and I was in that position, I still had a housekeeper twice a week. Right? My family was like, your wife is like a stay-at-home mom, right? And you're working, like, why don't you just get her? And it was her mom and dad, not even my parents. Her mom and dad were like, why don't you make your damn wife clean the house? She's there, just make her do it. You're spending $700 a month on housekeeping, Chris. Like, why are you doing this? And to me, because my values and beliefs are happy wife, happy life, like, to me, like the cost of that $700 a month of housekeeping, it was not an accident. And it was very intentional, because if I didn't do that, it was going to be a massive distraction, because my wife would not have been happy. It would have caused tension. I know that my personality is, if I have tension in my marriage, I'm not as productive in what I do. And by having the housekeeper, I knew that every couple of days, no matter how dirty the house was, no matter what the kids were doing, and we had like really little kids that were like toddlers and just like tearing the place apart. It was like a tornado every day. And constantly dishes, and, my wife's having to take care of them, and the dishes in the sink would pile up. And so I knew she just couldn't think about that. And I didn't want her to emotionally feel like she had to deal with it. I wasn't going to deal with it, because it was a distraction for me accomplishing my goals. So by spending $700, it was me buying my time freedom. It was me buying my emotional freedom to be able to focus in the area that I knew I needed to focus, that I was called to focus in, right? Most people looked at that as like an unnecessary expense. And to me, it was an investment,
Yeah,
and for other people that wouldn't be an investment. It would just be not worth it, because maybe their wife would be happy, doing that work or taking on that load or doing whatever. But we have to, like, that's just kind of one example. The same thing is like, I go out to eat more, or I did before I moved to the DR. We went out to eat a lot more than most people, because we just it's valuable. We don't want to spend the time cleaning and doing all that stuff. Neither one of us enjoy cooking. So if we don't enjoy it, we don't want to do it. So what are we going to do? We want to spend time with each other. We don't want to have to deal with, cooking and then cleaning up, and then it ends up leading to extra stress and stuff like that. And so when we decided that we needed to cut certain things out, we just kind of went, we have a different filter, right? That we put things through. And so it's not a perfect scenario all the time, obviously, but I think what's important is, if you're going to go through this process of like figuring out what are your values and beliefs, because the biggest thing is you have to figure out, first and foremost, what are your core values, right? And then what do you want your life to become? What's your vision for your life? And then what is your mission statement? Why do you do what you do? Why do you do what you do for your family? Why do you do what you do for your clients? How is what you're doing professionally aligning with what you're doing, with your money, and helping you accomplish the goal that you want to accomplish? Because too many people say they want one thing, but they're not living life. They're living life incongruently with what they say they want, with who they say they want to be, and how they want to show up in the world, right? So So the title of this video, and I want to say this, and then I want you to kind of give some feedback here. The title of this video is that the number one thing that's keeping you from, what is it called? Keeping you from like being wealthy or creating wealth or being financially free. I can't remember how I phrased it exactly, but it's like the number one thing keeping you from your financial goals, right? Is the fact that you're not intentional about it and you're not aligning. You don't even know what your financial goals are, right?
Yeah.
You don't know what you're trying to work towards, and so it's impossible to create a plan to get there. And so I know that sounds basic, but what I always tell people is we don't sell life insurance. We just help people get more clarity about their money. That's why we call it a clarity call when people reach out to us and try to work with us, because it's not my job to sell anybody anything. It's my job to help you get clarity on your goals and objectives and then figure out how to reverse engineer a plan. And I just believe that what we do in the different products and services and opportunities that we offer are in alignment with ways that are going to help people accomplish their goals on a guaranteed basis. And if not, then it's cool. Then we're not the right fit, right? Then they go work somewhere else. And at least by having that clarity call with us and going through that exercise of, getting clear on all these different things, knowing what they need to measure, to be able to accomplish their own goals successfully, I think, that it's impactful, right? Then there's a positive impact, right? And that's the thing for me is it's kind of like one of the goals that I have is no matter what happens, whether somebody comes through and becomes a client or whatever, I want their engagement with me and everybody, that they would ever have a call with the Life 180 team. I want them to have a positive response, like a positive feeling, meaning like, wow, I got value out of that conversation.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I think that's where most people struggle is just taking inventory of their current situation, right?
Mm-hmm.
And some people just don't know how to do it. And I think a lot of people that sit with other agents and other companies, they don't actually do it either. They're just, let's get straight down to what product, whatever the case may be. And I'm not saying everybody, there's some people that already did research, they're at a high level and
Sure.
They just want to talk with you. That's a little bit different. I'm just, most people that don't have a sense of like all the options, they haven't had so much, financial exposure. They don't know much. They don't even know what a 401k is. And there's so much work to do at that point. It's like, taking inventory, if we're going to align your values and beliefs with your money, well, first you got to figure out like how much money, what are we talking about here? What is the end goal, right? And then what are your values and beliefs? Because if we don't know those two things, we can't even align it. And it's like some people, they know their money. Like, I'll ask some people, what's the money that you're looking for? I want to have this amount of money in the future. Mm-hmm. This is the amount of money I want to retire. But that's great. You're still missing a big piece because now it's like, well, what do you believe in? We have to anchor those two, right? So they might have one, but they don't have the other. Oh, I know what I believe in, but how much money you want to make? I haven't really thought of that. So putting those together, I think people have the aha moment, like, oh my gosh, this makes so much sense. Well, how do I do this now? Now we can start moving forward. Here are different ways that we can actually do it, which is really a cool process.
It is. And I think what you just said there, I go to, it's like thinking about results instead of returns, right? Everybody thinks about like when they invest, they're like, what's the rate of return that I'm going to get? And at the end of the day, I think we need to stop thinking about the rate of return and start thinking about the rate of result. And what I mean by that is what we need to do is we need to take a step back and get away from thinking about, I need to invest and do all these different things, but start with the end in mind. Think about what life do I want to create, right? What is the objective that I'm after? Is it freedom? Is it what is your number of cash flow that you need to be completely free? Reverse engineer that to figure out the actual result that you're after, and you can actually plan to accomplish a result. The idea of investing for the best rate of return is keeping you a battery in the matrix, right? Kind of in the system. You're just energizing the system by being a profit center for the system, and you're helping them remain profitable. I just was looking at this thing the other day about the cost of investing and financial planning fees and like managed money fees and mutual fund fees over long periods of time, and it's pretty gross, how much money people are losing out of the potential growth that they have, and it's what's keeping people down.
You know, what's interesting. You said something that sparked something. So
Yeah.
there was a study, I forgot his name, but there was a study back in the day, Harvard Business School. He was one of the professors. So if you think about a long time ago when we used to retire, right? Most people we didn't have 401ks at the time. Most people had pensions.
Yeah.
And the thing about a pension, it told you exactly the income that you were going to get. So everything was focused on income, like cash flow. So when you know the amount of income that you're going to get in the future, you know the lifestyle it could bring. If you don't like it, you can increase your income, right? You could work a little bit longer to have more higher income. And so everything was income based. So you knew the lifestyle that you're going to live. And then over the years, companies weren't making too much money. It was too expensive for pensions. They transitioned, phased pensions out, and then added 401ks, where ultimately what they did is they transfer the cost of pensions now to the employee. So now the employee are putting money into these 401ks where they're pretty much paying all the fees. But here's the big shift. 401ks are not focused on income. It's focused on rate of return, just lump sum of money. And so all these people are putting money into this account where they just see this lump sum of money, but it doesn't tell them, well, what's the lifestyle? Like what kind of life am I going to live? Right. We don't know all these things, and no wonder why everybody's kind of lost. And what you said was spot on, is we got to start with the end in mind. Well, what is the cash flow? What does the income need to look like? What kind of lifestyle is that going to bring? And then we can kind of, reverse engineer it.
Yeah. I mean, you can't, it literally is impossible to utilize. Well, let me take a step backwards. I'm going to take a step backwards because I really want everybody to wrap their head around this, because it's so vital to understand. When we start thinking about money and why we invest and why we save and why we work and why we do all these things right now, most people in the United States don't go to work because they love what they do. They're not as lucky as us, right? Yeah. Like, most people are going to work because they have to, because they're trying to make enough money so then they can ultimately maybe invest and save enough money and have enough freedom one day, because their money will be able to buy them that freedom. We call it retirement in the United States. And people are taught that they got to go to school, get a job, invest in a 401k and work for 40 years. And, they even took the gold watch away at the end, but now hopefully you have enough money, and most people wind up not having enough money. But it is what it is. And so you get to 65 and that's like, quote unquote, freedom, in retirement. But then people have lost their purpose at that point in time. I'm a big believer that that's why people are getting sick, and that's why people die so quickly after they retire. They lose their purpose in life. You know what I mean? And, it's to me, what we need to start thinking about is being intentional about the life that we want to live, and not investing for this return, not investing to try to grow our money, but to be intentional about what's just the life that we want to live, right? What is that like? And I promise you, my life that I want to live is different than yours and yours and yours. And if we polled 100 people, the life is going to be different. So why do we have this cookie cutter system that says this is just how you have to invest, right? And everybody should do the same thing, assuming that you just want to, go through life and be passive with your money, and hopefully it'll work for you by the time you're 65. They've got you on the hamster wheel. They've got you plugged into the matrix, being part of the system, and being a power source for what they're trying to do, right? It's not about you and empowering you and your goals and your visions for your life and creating what you want to create. So the only way to do that is to unplug from the system and think about things differently, right? That's what Steve Jobs always said. You got to think differently, right? Like, that's how Apple built its company, and look what they've created in the world, right? And so if we go from that perspective and we say, all right, let's just begin with the end in mind, and let's think about, what is the life that I want? For me, I want freedom. I value freedom and adventure. That's what my wife and I talk about this all the time. That is what we value. And so no matter what we do, our money has to be in alignment as a tool to help us accomplish what we're after in life. Because if you're not doing that, your subconscious is not going to allow you to be all in on whatever strategy that you're trying to execute. And therefore, it's always going to be a passive kind of behind the scenes, reactive kind of scenario. You're not going to be really after it and committed to saving as much as you need to save, to taking the risks the way that you need to take them at the right time. It's what I always say, you are where you are because of who you are. And if you want to live the life you want to live, you got to become who you need to be to live that life. And that's unfortunately for most people, there's a big gap. right? From where you are and where you need to be. But what they don't realize is it's really easy to close that gap, you know? And that's why I think what we're doing, and I'm not going to sit here and say it's perfect right now either, you know, like we're still, this is something I've been working with clients on in a long time, and we're just now building the frameworks around it to create scalability, to be able to empower a group of agents that can go out and coach people, not to buy life insurance, not to invest, not to get out of debt, not to do anything, but to just help people get clear and have a process and a framework of what are your values and beliefs, what's the vision you have for your life, what's your mission statement, what's your purpose, what are you actually standing for? And now once we're clear on all that, now let's talk about your money. Now let's talk about, is your money in alignment with all that? And the answer is, I don't know. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But wouldn't it be badass if you could identify that, right? Wouldn't it be amazing if every single person in this world had the ability to identify if their money was in alignment with their values and beliefs? And do you think that would make a positive impact on the culture of the world?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think people would rethink the actions that they take if they were clear on their beliefs and values. And I think, and I know you said it's not perfect right now, but I've been in a lot of different type of systems and selling and WFG model, FFL model. I've done presentations. I've done over the phone. I've done the scripts, the one call closes. I've tried everything. And I would say this approach is bar none the best because, well, it's the best for me. I believe in it. Maybe some other agents don't believe in it, but I believe it's the best because it's actually truly putting people first. And if you're not trying to put people first in this industry, I don't even know why you're in this industry, to be honest. You should be called out.
I agree. That's why I call people out all the time.
Yeah,
I just did a reaction video for a client who is a client of ours. She bought a policy, a good sizable policy, you know, $200,000 front load policy with a $50,000 annual premium. So it wasn't a small premium. She was a real estate investor, and she went to this event, and this guy who's an agent, you know, tried to show her why another company was better than what we did. And, you know, he got into it, and she sent me the video of the Zoom meeting she had with him. And so I just did a reaction, and I'm not making it public or anything, but I filmed a reaction video just for her because this guy did not know anything about what he was talking about. It was so bad, but it just goes to show you how easy it is for people to be deceived when they don't fully understand this stuff, you know? And I told her, I'm like, listen, I'm never going to begrudge anybody from going and getting a second opinion. I will put what we do up against anybody. I know exactly why. And I can say that authentically because before we do anything with anybody when it comes to their money, whether it's a term policy, whether it's a whole life policy, whether it's a debt program, whether it's anything that we do, I know that was done because of a conversation that we had about your values and your beliefs, your goals and objectives, and making sure that we're utilizing these products as tools for you to accomplish your goals and the timeframes, and you have the clarity and you have all this stuff. And so that, like, I can literally go back to that and be like, all right, it's clean. And, you know, meanwhile, this other person is just talking about all these things and like using smoke and mirrors and numbers and misleading. And it honestly, at the end of the day, it was kind of a fun thing to like tear a guy apart. But like, it's also sad that that this kind of stuff happens on such a regular basis, you know, and thank God she like shared it with us because otherwise she'd just be confused, you know. And I was like, you know, always, if you ever feel questions, go and you want to learn. I mean, this is all an educational journey. Go learn, go ask people questions, go ask other agents questions. I don't use me as the end all be all. But by all means, I hope you can come back and feel comfortable and confident to come back and like vet stuff and ask questions and you know, allow us to help kind of put the icing on the cake, so to speak, you know, and help you really get clarity about it all. But I think what we're talking about right now, I mean, this is probably going to be one of the lesser watched videos because of this comment of like, what's keeping you from success? And a lot of people don't want to think about what's keeping them. So they're going to be the ostrich that buries its head in the sand, right? Yeah. And you know, my favorite quote is, just because the ostrich buries its head in the sand doesn't mean the lion's dinner plans have changed, right? And you reaching, if your plan, your goal, your ultimate objective is financial freedom, which, let's face it, that's what everybody's is. It's just a fancy way of saying you want to hit retirement. Would you like to hit retirement in 40 years or 10 or 15 years? I don't, it's up to you. You must really love your job if you want to, work that long.
Yeah.
But, how cool would it be to be there faster? And at the end of the day, most people are going to get there 40 years from now and not have enough. I mean, that's just, Dalbar statistics have shown that we're woefully undersaved, underinvested. I mean, I think I saw the average net worth of a person in the United States, 65 years old, is like $250,000, right? Like, that just goes to show they have nothing. People have nothing. That's like $10,000 a year of income, right? That you can pull off that. And so that is just, it's a gross number. And it doesn't need to be that way. But the reason it is that way is because people are not being intentional with their money. They're not even intentional about what they're trying to accomplish in life. And I guess it just comes down to the belief that I believe, and this is a core values thing, right? Like, it's a core beliefs thing. I believe everybody was put on this earth for a specific reason, for, to do something special, and I think we all are called to do something special. And I think maybe there's not just one thing. We have options as we go through life, but we're given special gifts and abilities and whatnot that we have an opportunity to do. And maybe, maybe Matt and I have the same kind of gifts and abilities, and we choose to manifest them in a little bit of a different way, and we show up in the world a little bit differently. But I believe that we're given these gifts to do something special, to make an impact, to leave a legacy, to help other people, to make the world around us a better place. And while that can look different and whatnot, like, I believe it's our job, it's our journey to kind of find those things, find those areas, identify them, and then like really go all in on that, and figure out, because that's what's going to be most fulfilling. When we can find what we're uniquely like capable at, right? What our unique abilities are, that is the most fulfilling thing in the world, right? When you know that, like, you're in flow and you're doing these things. That's why I love creating the content that I do. That's why I love, even though it gets really frustrating and sometimes it makes me sad to see all the negative comments that I get, and people make these comments about me, like, why don't you just focus on whole life? And why don't you stop talking about IUL? If your product was so good, why would you talk about IUL so much? It's because I believe in helping people. That's why, because I believe there's so much noise that's misleading about IUL. There's not enough noise on the other side educating people. And so I'm just trying to save people from making poor decisions. I'm not ever bashing IUL. I may be bashing some individuals who are misrepresenting IUL, and I know they know what they're doing. But I'm not bashing IUL. I'm educating to IUL. I find it funny. What I find funny, I'm sorry, I got to go on a little tangent here. What I find funny is the IUL agents that, like, call me and they're like, why do you got to bash IUL, so much, when I'm educating about how IUL actually works to protect people against the lies that are out there about it. Yet when somebody like Doug Andrew goes, here's why IUL dwarfs whole life, and he says all these things that are not even true, but he's bashing whole life. But in the IUL's agent's eyes, that's education somehow.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it just goes to show the level of confirmation bias and, like, simple-mindedness. And sometimes I just wonder, like, am I even capable of helping these people? But what drives me is, good afternoon, Mr. Campy. What drives me is that I don't make these videos for thousands of people. I have this one guy, ironically, I'm going to say this. I don't like to, like, use bad language on the channel often, or like slang, name calling or anything like that. But there's this guy who has been, like, trolling me on the channel. I'm going to give him a little airtime right now. So he's been trolling me on the channel, like, telling me that, why are you even doing what you're doing? What you're doing doesn't matter. Like, you're only reaching 500 people or 1,000 people. Like, why are you even doing it? It doesn't matter. Like, your channel sucks. And this guy's name is Douchebag. I think Douchebag55. And I'm like, dude, how am I even supposed to take you seriously? Like, and my guess is he's, like, actually probably a real person, and that's, like, a handle that he's using to, like, hide, but, like, it's just my response to him, because I try to respond to every comment I can. My response to him is, like, I'm not making this for everybody. I don't care. Like, If I get to 1 million followers, that'd be awesome. Don't get me wrong. It's only awesome though, not because I was trying to seek 1 million followers. I think that people think the thing that people miss about me is I'm not doing this to get to 1 million followers.
Yeah, like
I'm doing this because if I make this video, I hope one person sees it and we can change a life, right? You know, I'm doing this because of the fact that like I believe in what we're doing, and if it just keeps growing, and the metrics and the follows and the views, the subscribers, the likes, the shares, which if you haven't liked and shared, please do. But like all that stuff, what that is just a metric that's telling us, is it working? Is it not? Whatever. I don't need millions. I mean, yeah, like it's cool to have it, like, because there's credibility that comes with it. And it shows that what we're doing is impactful. But to me, I'm good with 30,000 right now. I was ecstatic when we hit 30,000 followers. When we hit 100,000, I'll be more ecstatic, but only because I know that that means our community is growing and that our impact and the value that we've given to the world has increased, right? Like it's not about the followers and the income and like the YouTube income. I got news for you. 100,000 followers on YouTube, you're not making enough money to make that your full-time job anyway. Like this is a thing where it's about who we're attracting. This channel to me is about being really, really clear on our culture, being really, really clear about what we stand for, what our values and beliefs are about, and then showing people that are really wanting to live life with the same values and beliefs and that really align with that have joined other organizations, that have thought about getting into this business, that have seen like this thread of discontent in the space, and that like there's a lot of deceptiveness and smoke and mirrors, that there's actually a place that they can plug into where they're not going to be forced to sell and cold call and do all these things, that they can actually be supported to be authentic in the business and actually show up in a way that is purely helping people.
Yeah, I think people who look at the subscriber count and say things like that, I don't think they could actually even see the big picture and the ripple effect that you're creating. Because like I look at my life, like I came across your channel and it changed the trajectory of my entire freaking life. Like it just went boop, not even like halfway, like it went flipped to the other side, right? And so the change in my life, and now all the people that I interview, it totally changed the trajectory of their career and their life. So it's like they don't see the big ripple effect behind the subscriber account. I'm like, you guys don't even understand what's going on here. Like that's not even a good a picture of what's happening here. So I think there's a delay in that. I think that'll pick up, but there's so much stuff going on here. It's just unbelievable. But I mean, I'm thankful. I don't care if you had 2 subscribers. I'm thankful I came across and what it did for my life. And now I get to take that and then go share it and impact other people's lives. And it's just going to be a ripple effect. And we're seeing it within our team and our company. So.
Yeah, I mean, I always say I in anything I do, I'm much more of a quality over quantity kind of individual, no matter what. You know, I'd rather have the right people and an engaged audience and an audience that is meant to be here versus, you know, somebody going out. Like there are people that go out there. I know of a guy who's an influencer, you know, they go out and they pay, you know, to build their YouTube channels. They go from like 0 to 40,000 just to look good. You know, they buy followers on Instagram, they buy followers on TikTok, they do all this stuff. And you know, that's like just, I've never paid a follower. I've never done what we do out there, you know, and if people click on it and like it and they subscribe, okay, that's fine. But like, I don't know. I really think it's a tricky situation because it's really easy to compromise on our values and beliefs. In life in general, it's really easy to compromise. And I think that's the slow thing. I think when you talk to most 45-year-olds, right, and I'll be 44 in July, when you talk to most 45-year-olds, and if I were to go back to, and I interviewed every 45-year-old, and my interview question was, go to them, and I said, hey, if we were to go in a time machine and go back and talk to your 18-year-old self or your 22-year-old self as you were getting out of college, are you where you are in life right now? Are you where you would hope to be at that point in time? Most people are going to say no. Is that fair?
Oh yeah.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah.
There's something. Yeah. And so most people are going to say that, no, I'm not where I thought I would be. I'm not where I wanted to be. And that's not a coincidence. It's because they compromised little by little by little just to make ends meet, just to, get the next job, to have security. They're compromising all these things, that are really what they valued and what they believed and what they said. But when we make these little micro compromises all, consistently over long periods of time, before you know it, our life sucks, and it might not suck. You might have a nice house and nice cars and, a wife and a kids, or a husband and kids and like a family. And that's okay. But you're probably not going to be fulfilled. I think this is where a lot of like midlife crises come into play, right? Is because like you might be successful, you might have the things and the items and the $1 million house, or like all the living, whatever, but it doesn't mean you're fulfilled. It doesn't mean you're happy. It doesn't mean that you are living the life that you want to live. And, I think it's really important to be intentional about that. It's one of the reasons, we've done what we've done, and we've uprooted our life and we've moved to the Dominican. It's because my wife and I have gotten really, really clear. It wasn't by accident, And I had that moment. I'm just being real. Like, I'm not speaking at people right now. I'm coming at it from somebody who I am way more intentional about my life than most people. And I still found myself last year being like, I have this company. I love what I do. I love the people I'm around. Like 90% of what I do, I really have done a great job. And I'm very happy with that. And there was still that little percentage that left me wildly unfulfilled. And it just happened to be because of my core values and my core beliefs of the top two things that I valued and really treasured in my life that would led to my fulfillment. The top two things I sacrificed to get all these other things, right? So it's not just like what you have, it's what do you give up, or what are you compromising on to get those things? And listen, there's always going to be sacrifice. There's always going to be compromise. That's life, but for me, when I realized that, it was a game changer,
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
And I mean, you've come down and you see what's that? Go ahead.
I gotta share a story. Well, you said literally explained my life in the last 3 years.
Cool.
Because when I left the WFG thing, COVID happened, then I got into that other company where they're buying leads, right?
Yep.
So that was my first exposure to it. When I got into it, I knew it didn't align with my values and belief, but the money was fast and it was coming in quick, right? And I got to a point where I'm like, I can't continue to do this because I don't feel fulfilled. And when I walked away from that agency, I think the last number that I saw that whole team, everything that we did was like 1.7 million. I walked away from that entire business, and the team that came with me and the agents that follow me, I'm sure everybody's thinking like, why would you just walk away from that? And then I came over here and everybody's like, well, how's Life 180 doing? Like, are you guys doing big things? And I'm thinking, you guys are freaking ignorant neophytes because you don't understand what it looks like when you're building something from the ground floor. And I, of course, I'm thinking like, just watch, just wait. But I feel fulfilled here. I don't care. I'm not where I used to be. I don't care. The cash flow is not where it used to be like that, right? Because I'm fulfilled. And to me, like, it's so important. Like, I know everything, the direction everything's going. I already know the trajectory. I know the future is going to be bright because I know what we're building here. And over there, I just couldn't do it. Like, I just couldn't do it. And so with that, and this is the funny part. I mean, it's not funny. Not at least for me, it is. So all the people that are drinking the Kool-Aid in that company, right? They are making, $500,000 a year, $600,000 a year. And they're like, yeah, this is the best business. Recently, majority of them lost everything. Yeah. And there's something that I told them that they wouldn't listen to me. I said, the head of that snake, the head of that company is a douche. Sorry to say it, but he is.
Is he the dude that's commenting?
No.
No,
I'm just totally lying. He's just the worst example of a leader, and they just still continue to follow him. And that whole thing is collapsing. And now they lost their whole team. They don't have any money coming in. Now they're trying to figure out where they're going to go. And I'm like, see, that's what happens when you chase money instead of value, right? Like fulfillment and doing what's right.
Yeah.
Chasing money is always short term. It seems great. It feels probably great for a short term, but in the long run, I just never seen it work out for people.
I think this is the challenge in the business. So many people come in, and we have a 93% failure rate for life insurance agents within 3 years of the business. Okay, that means people get in and they fail 93% of the time within 3 years. And I think that's because it's focused on just making money. And if that's what's driving you, please just don't join at all. Like, you got to really believe in this stuff. And I think, like anything else, it's like, I could want to build my house really fast, right? If I'm in a rush to build my house and I'm cutting corners on making sure the foundation is solid, making sure that like all the walls have their, angle joints and everything built in properly. And if I live in, in the Caribbean here, and I'm building houses and I make sure that every house isn't like hurricane proof, right? Like, it can all feel great until one storm, right? And then boom, everything's gone, and that's what happens in this business. And there's a lot of people out there selling on hype, selling, on all these things, but they don't have the principles like really figured out in their life. They don't really understand it well enough. And maybe they've learned a script and they've learned some simple things, and, they don't know what they don't know. So they are able to kind of like be ignorance on fire, is really what the IUL industry is all about right now, is ignorance on fire. And I'll double down with that and have a live conversation with anybody who wants to disagree with me on that. And it's ignorance on fire is the problem, because that's leading a lot of people, a lot of American families down a dangerous path with their money. And I just think, we have a responsibility to really know this stuff inside out, to build a business from a long-term perspective. And that means you got to build a foundation. But I got news for you. The foundation of the business, the foundation of your business as an agent, is not to learn WFG's script or GFI's script or PHP's script or Life 180's script. Yeah. That's why what we do here, I don't want to teach you a script. I want to teach you a framework to learn how to critically think, to ask the right questions, and then learn this stuff to be able to go and be a value creation machine for the people that you're looking to serve. You know what I mean? And that's the only way that you're going to be able to really build this business from a long-term perspective. It is the only way. You can learn a script and you can make money, and you can burn through relationships, and you can make a lot of money in the process, and then you're going to have damaged relationships on the other end of it, because you got people into something you didn't understand. You're going to have to go back to them with your tail between your legs and apologize, saying that you were taken advantage of. But and the person that was coaching you wasn't upfront with you and wasn't forthcoming and wasn't, they screwed. You're going to be a victim. That's really what it comes down to. When you go through that process, the only way you do anything is you're going to be like, to manage or salvage a relationship, is you're going to have to come off as a victim. My question is that what you want? Are you willing to go a little slower, to build your foundation, to learn, to build yourself as an asset that you need to be, to learn this stuff, to figure out how to add value to people? To do that, you got to be. It cannot be just about making money when you get into this business. That's the biggest thing.
Man, I just want to. There's people in the industry that, they, I guess, to other agents, their peers, they've made it. They've had success. And I've had arguments with those type of leaders and people that are on top of these teams. They're like, well, if you're not about making money in this industry, what are you doing? We're here to make money. And I'm like, they take things out of context. It's not like we want to do this for a hobby, right? We definitely want to create an income, but it's like your priorities as far as, like helping people and getting to where you need to be and becoming who you need to become, and not having making money as your number one thing. And I hate when people say it. And they you get everybody to laugh at you, like, oh, this guy doesn't want to make money. That type of persona. No. It's just so disgusting. Like it's so disgusting in this industry. It's like, we're talking about helping people here, and this is how you act. Like, oh, this is all funny to you guys. You know what I mean? It's just disgusting.
Yeah. Well, it's hard. Like, the hard part is, and I get really triggered by this. Like I get triggered. Like, I don't like to be a person that gets triggered, but this shit triggers me.
Yeah, me too.
The people that, like, we did this reaction the other day to Eric Olson's interview with the Ethos dude, right? And it was interesting because out of one moment, it was like literally 5 minutes apart. 1 minute he was talking to the guy from Ethos, and he was like, you know what, we're a financial education and empowerment company. That's what we do, right? We're empowering people. And he had all these acronyms, and like, don't get me wrong, I love acronyms when they're used the right way, and like, whatever, that's cool. No, so like, whatever. But he's like, we empower people. That's what we stand for. And then, you know, he went and he started talking about the problems. The problems are that it takes 60 to 90 days for these people to get paid and like all this stuff. And so, you know, what we did is we partnered, and we can now get you paid in 15 minutes. And the challenge that I have with that is that it's impossible to empower somebody if you're selling them a product in 15 minutes, right? It's impossible to educate somebody when you're talking about selling them something within 2 hours, quite frankly. It takes time, you know, to go through this and to educate people and empower them. Now, I put a video up, like basically showing this guy, just a short, and showing like what a fraud the whole situation is, and like what just like the hypocrisy and just like speaking out of both sides of their mouths. And they're really good salespeople, but and it's if you don't understand it, it's really easy to be deceived. You cannot, like any product that's not only can you not educate people, but any product you sell in 15 minutes, there are use cases if it's final expense and if it's just like a cheap term and it's like express underwriting or something like that, that's fine. But for these like bigger products that people sell in IULs their whole life or anything of that nature, even though I don't believe in IUL, I'm talking to the people that are selling it. You can't sell that in 15 minutes. And now like Ethos is coming out with express issue that can be that the simplified issue IUL that will be done in 15 minutes. You know, people are going to do this, and that's never in the best interest of the client. It's in the best interest of getting paid faster. So which is it? Is it financial empowerment or is it getting paid faster? You don't get to have both. Now, a lot of people came to me and said, oh, Chris, you don't get it. We're only using these products for those areas.
Yeah.
Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. I'm not even going to have that argument. What I will have the argument of is that your leader needs to be more careful with their words, because people are getting into this industry that don't understand this stuff. And as leaders, I believe we have a responsibility to what? Lead, not hype people up, not get them excited about marketing. Like, make no mistake about it. This is a personal growth business. You, when you get into this business, the only person you need to be selling initially is yourself. Period. Because you got to sell yourself that you believe in it, that you want to become who you need to be to get to where you want to go and to be able to serve the people the way you want to serve. But that's going to take time, right? It's not about you getting in and falling in line and getting taught that success leaves clues and just do what I'm telling you to do and just blindly follow and don't ask questions. And, you know, you just follow, right? Just do the sales process, follow the script. Idiot.
How did we get here?
I don't know. How did we go down this path again? I said I wasn't going to do this.
Oh, man. That's funny.
Dang it. Anyway, let's go back. Rewind. Sorry. Yeah. Sorry, guys. I just like this stuff. It's mind numbing to me. Like, if you guys saw all the emails that I get every day right now about this crap, it's insane. But so like, really, I mean, my encouragement to everybody is really get intentional about your values and beliefs. So somebody asked, and I put in the thing, like, anybody that wants, you can email me, chris@life180.com. And I'm building this framework out, and I think it'll help. Like, I'm happy to share it with you, and have you go through an exercise to do this. And I'll send you a place where you can get access to the values and beliefs worksheet. And I think it'll be really, really helpful for you to go through. What would be the most beneficial for you is to actually work with a Life 180 coach, obviously, to help guide you through it, because they know how to do it. And so if you go down below and set up a clarity call on YouTube, there's a link for a clarity call. You can go to life180.com//clarity-call. It's there. And one of the coaches on the team can help you guide through it. But really what it comes down to is this, and I'll walk through a process. Just kind of audibly right now. First thing you need to do is really figure out what is your belief around money, right? Like, what are your current beliefs about wealth, money, how money works, how money is supposed to be used as a tool, and things of that nature. Then think about, how are you currently using money to accomplish your goals? Are you at all? Are you not? Whatever. And really get clear on all that. Like just think about your current value structure and belief structure around what does money mean? What is your paradigm, so to speak, around what money is, right? That's the first step. The second step is figure out your core values. Most people haven't taken the time to do this. It's one of the most powerful and empowering exercises that you can do. Because what happens is when you can figure out your 5 core values and you can figure out why, and you can clearly articulate and communicate why those 5 things are your core values, it will change the game for you. Because what happens is these 5 things become a filter in which you make your decisions through. Because when opportunities come at you in life, you get to put it through there and it's like, all right, is this in alignment with my core values? And the answer is yes or no. And if it's yes, you get to dive deeper into it. And if it's no, it's just an automatic reject, right? So you figure out your core values. Then you figure out what's your vision for your life. Where do you want to go? What do you want your life to be about? You know, if you were to talk to yourself in 25 years, you know, what will you have told yourself? You know, like think about it. If you're 40 and you go back to your high school self, what would you have told back then? And think that you're going to have the same conversation 25 years from now. Most people, like, I don't know if people realize this, but Colonel Sanders didn't start Kentucky Fried Chicken, I think, till he was 72 years old.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Right? It's crazy, right? Warren Buffett has made 99% of his wealth after the time he was 58 years old. I'm 44. Even if I were starting with absolutely nothing right now, if I got my thinking right and I started behaving properly and did all that, I could be completely, you know, anybody has a chance to be successful no matter where you are, no matter what your level of education, no matter what you're starting with at this moment. You have the ability to take control of the results in your life now. Start being intentional by starting with the end in mind, figuring these things out. But that starts with vision. And that's the biggest challenge in this world, is most people lack vision.
Yeah.
And if you don't have the vision of what you want to create for your life, then it's hard to come up with your core values and figure out how they're going to help you get there, right? Because your core values, when you're living in alignment with your core values, you're always going to feel progress and you're always going to feel fulfilled, because your core values are really what lead you. That's what's going to make you happy. Don't fall into the alignment that you have to live everybody else's life for you and that you have to, you know, make a couple $100,000 a year and you got to get this big house and have the fancy cars and have kids in private school and do all these things and in all the private sports clubs and all this stuff. Been there, done that. I get it, you know, but it wasn't fulfilling, you know, and it doesn't, that's not to say that you can't go out and make a ton of money. But what's cool is when you're aligning, and it's not about the money. When you live in alignment with your core values and then you're clear on your vision, now you know that you're not going to compromise along the way. You're going to have consistent, even if it takes longer to get there, you're going to be more fulfilled because you'll always have progress. It's funny. It's a lot like a whole life policy, you know? So like you'll always have progress. You'll be growing every year, right? You'll have certain years where you know, have bigger growth than others because of opportunity that comes to you, right? And, you know, you're going to be fulfilled because you know you're living your life's purpose, right? And so then that gets to the end of it, is once you have your paradigm framed around money and you got your core values done and you're clear on your vision, now figure out what is your purpose? Like, what is your mission in this life? What is your mission statement? It's different. The vision is what you want for your life. And like the mission statement is like almost like why you do it and who is going to benefit in your world. How do you want to help other people? What's your impact in the world? Right. And there's a little overlap, but they're also different. And so if you want, email Chris at Life180. I'll send you this worksheet that will walk you through this entire process that will help you get there. And I mean, it's like a 5-hour, wouldn't you say it's like a 5-6 hour exercise to really do that?
Yeah, if you take it seriously and actually go through it, it's going to take some time, but I think it's well worth the time, considering that most people waste time on things that are not productive and add value to your life. Yeah, I would definitely fit that in.
I mean, unfortunately, I think like that's why. So the title of this video is the number one thing keeping you from success. And what I just went through, not having done that is keeping you from success. And the reason I say this is because of the fact that if you haven't been clear on all those things, You can go and invest, you can go save money, you can go and do all these things. It doesn't matter. You may have financial success, but you might be miserable in other areas of life. You might have financial success and be feeling completely unfulfilled, living in your big house with your fancy cars and like feeling empty in the process, right? Because you're not living your life's purpose. But when we start with our core values and our vision and our mission and our purpose, when we start with those things and then we allow ourselves to say, wow, this is what I'm leading my life with. Every decision I make is going to go through this filter. And now I'm going to learn, only then can you learn to use money as a tool to accomplish your best life. It might mean you need to move a little slower. It might mean that you actually move faster because you're living in more flow. And there are going to be some people that go a little slower and some people that go rocket ship speed faster. And there's no absolute there. And quite frankly, the variable in that is probably going to be you. You know, I could tell you for me, my life has gone light years faster in the past year, even though I've actually kind of done a lot less in some facets because I'm living in more alignment, you know, and I feel more fulfilled in the process. Doesn't mean that there's not challenges and things that we deal with, but like, I don't know. I love this stuff. I love this stuff. Like, and I love this stuff so much. And it's also like really sad to me that people just haven't done it, you know, and like, I almost feel selfish and, like just too blessed like that I've had the opportunity and ability to do this stuff and other people haven't, you know?
Well, they have the opportunity. It's just, you know, they're on their journey and that's where they got to start.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's funny when you said that, it kind of made me think, like you said earlier, you said this before, it's like, once you identify your values and beliefs, and then that's the filter or the lens you live your life through. Right.
Yeah.
And I thought, I'm like, wow, if you haven't got clear on your values and beliefs, and that's the filter and the lens you live your life through, then the question is, whose filter or lens are you living your life through then? Whose
so true.
filter or lens have you adapted or borrowed? Whose eyes are you living your life through that, you know? And when you think about it like that, it's like, wow, are you really living your life or are you living someone else's life? Are you living the life that the government put in front of you? Are you living the life that someone else influenced you? Is that truly you, right? And what's funny is, like, subconsciously, I think throughout my career over the last 10 years, my subconscious has prevented me from doing things that are not alignment. I've just gone on this journey. And then when I got here, I finally had clarity, like, I get it. Now I understand why I stopped doing that. Now I understand why that didn't work out. Now I understand why that didn't work out. It's not that I was a failure. It's just, I truly, when I look at it, I was just not in alignment with like integrity and the way I looked at things. It's just, I can't do it as a person who I am. But once I got clarity on that, I'm like, oh, it all comes together. You could look back in your life and realize, like, it's not your failures. It probably wasn't in alignment. You just didn't understand that, right? It's a cool, it's a cool epiphany for sure. Everybody should go through that exercise.
Yeah, I love it, man. No, that's awesome. That's super cool. Well, anything else? Did we miss anything that we wanted?
I think that was it. Like, there's a lot of other things to the title, but if you miss that, all that other stuff doesn't matter. Like that's the meat and potatoes, right? Like if you don't understand what we just went over, like, we need to go back and have a talk just about that, because that is the foundation, and everything else is, you know, secondary.
Because it's super cool, right? Like maybe you're an entrepreneur and that's your life's calling and mission. That's like what you're really called to. Maybe the big house and all that stuff is what you're called to, and that's genuinely your driver, which is cool. It's not right or wrong. It's just like getting real with yourself, right? And figuring out. And maybe it's maybe you want to be a real estate investor. Maybe you just want to be a digital nomad and like live a super simple life and like be free and move all over the place. You know, like whatever it is, there's no right or wrong. It's just, are you being intentional about utilizing money to help create the life that you want? You know, and that's, and if you follow this exercise and you go through that process, I promise you, it'll help you. You know, I promise you, you'll have more clarity and you'll be able to start acting in a way and living in a way, behaving in a way, and aligning your actions with what you actually say. You'll be like, it creates congruence in life, and that's going to help you progress more. It's going to help you feel more fulfilled. And I'm a believer, like when you can create that that alignment and you have fulfillment, then you're not going to be tired. You're not going to be drained. You're going to be full of energy because what you do is going to be energizing, because you're going to be fulfilled, and that's going to allow you to show up more powerfully, even work more hours when necessary. And it's going to help you get where you want to go faster. Sometimes you got to go a little slower and, take a couple steps back before you go forward. But I look at it like when you do this, it's kind of like a slingshot. It's like if we're at neutral, you pull it, you got to go back, but it's just building that tension. And when you figure it out, you're going to get shot forward, and it's that timing you just got to think about. Like, are you willing to align yourself and create that tension and pull it back so you can shoot forward? And sometimes you just got to be willing to do that. And you got to be willing to go through the pressure and go through the tension and commit to the life that you actually say you want to live. And it's impossible. And it's why I love what we do. And I've done this for 15 years now. And for a long time, I didn't even realize this. And this is why I love like the frameworks that we're building it around it now, because I could never put words to it before. And this is part of my growth, right? Like is I can never put words to it before. And is what I realize now, the reason I love what we do is because I just truly believe you can't actually put that tension and like get there and put yourself in alignment to actually live your best life unless you get right with your money, right? Like that's the cool part. And so to be able to be in a position where we have that influence and the ability to coach people to learn how to do that and coach them through that's to me is the magic in this business and what we do and why I do it, and hopefully, all the people on the team, we're creating this framework that they can execute accordingly, and they can come in and try to learn it, because it's not easy, right? Like what we're talking about doing in this video, as far as being an agent, being a financial coach and helping people in this way, it takes more time for you to get comfortable doing that. It takes more time for you to like do it yourself and like to become who you need to be to do this with people, right? It's way harder to do this and learn these frameworks and learn how to ask the right questions and understand all these different communication points and whatnot than it is to just like, hey, here's a slide deck, learn how to memorize this presentation and just follow along and go just get the reps in, like it's a different animal, but it's worth it. And I would argue that you have a responsibility to not take the easy way.
Yeah.
That's just me.
For sure.
So, anyway. All right. Cool. Well, thanks for being here, man.
That was anytime. Back again next week.
All right. All right, guys. If you haven't already and you found value in this, I'd love share it out there. I think this message, I think all of our messages are important, but I think this one more than most. It's nothing to do with the specific money, nothing to do with the products, nothing to do with anything. It has everything to do with you becoming who you need to be to live the life that you want to live and aligning your money with your values and beliefs and your core values and getting clear on your vision and your purpose and all these things. And maybe you've done it, maybe you haven't, maybe you need to revisit it, maybe you want to revisit it and think about it. But I would encourage everybody that finds value in this, share it, get it out there to somebody, because I think I think a lot of people need to hear this kind of message. I think it's the kind of message that can give people hope, that can empower people to realize that they don't have to just kind of keep getting stuck in the mud that they're stuck in, and it can open up and it can empower people to step into the next phase of life and step into their biggest and best life. To me, that's what this is about. And so anyway, thanks for being here. If you haven't already, subscribe, hit the bell, all that fun stuff. And if not, no big deal, but it helps. And hopefully you found value. So we'll talk. See you guys on the next